In the early hours of February 14th, 2000 Valentine's Day, 9-year-old Asha Degree quietly stepped out of her family's home in Shelby, North Carolina. It was dark, cold. The rain had started to fall, and strong winds howled through the trees. But Asha was walking alone down Highway 18. No one knew why. No one knew where she was going. She never made it home again. If you want to follow this chilling mystery to the end, like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. Earlier that evening, everything had seemed normal. Asha and her older brother O'Brien had gone to bed around 8 p.m. after a busy weekend of church activities and a basketball game. Her parents, Harold and Aquila Degree, were loving and attentive. There was no shouting in the house, no signs of a fight, no tension in the air. But around 2:30 a.m., O'Brien stirred. He heard the rustle of sheets. He thought it was Asha turning over in bed. He went back to sleep. By the time their mother checked on the children at 6:30 a.m., Asha was gone. Her bed was empty. The front door was unlocked. Panic set in immediately. Aquila began calling every relative in the area. No one had seen her. Police were called. The neighborhood was swarmed with officers, neighbors, and volunteers. But there were no signs of forced entry. No footprints inside the house. No broken windows. Just a missing little girl who had walked out into a storm. Then came a stunning discovery. Multiple drivers reported seeing a young girl matching Asha's description, walking along Highway 18 between 3:30 a.m. and 4:15 a.m. One driver turned around, concerned, but when he tried to approach her, she bolted into the woods, disappeared into the trees. What would cause a shy, soft-spoken 9-year-old, who was scared of dogs, hated storms, and was known for her caution, to leave her house alone in the middle of the night? There were no signs of foul play inside the Degree home. Her family was devastated. Her father couldn't stop replaying the weekend in his head, asking what he might have missed. Her mother felt crushed by the silence. Asha hadn't left a note, hadn't packed anything obvious, hadn't said a word. Investigators launched a massive search. Helicopters, search dogs, volunteers combing the woods. But Asha had vanished without a trace. The only certainty, she had left willingly, on foot, in the middle of a storm. What was waiting for her out there? What do you think made Asha leave her home that night? Was someone waiting for her? Or did she plan it alone? Share your thoughts below. 2 days after Asha vanished, the frantic search finally turned up something. A single white mitten lying near a shed about a mile from her home. The Degree family said it didn't belong to Asha. Still, it was enough to trigger a deeper search of the area. Then, inside a nearby tool shed at a business off Highway 18, authorities found candy wrappers, a marker, and a pencil. These items were traced back to Asha's school supplies. Investigators believed she had stopped there, maybe to take shelter from the storm, before continuing on her mysterious journey. The community held its breath. If she had made it that far, maybe she was still alive. Maybe she had run away, but hadn't gone far. Volunteers pushed deeper into the woods. Flyers were posted across Shelby. Her face, those innocent eyes, that radiant smile, was everywhere. The Degree family never left the news. Asha's mother, Aquila, appeared on every local channel, pleading for her daughter to come home. But days turned into weeks, weeks into months. No new leads. Then, in August 2001, a full year and a half after she disappeared, a breakthrough. Construction workers clearing land in Burke County, about 26 miles north of Shelby, unearthed something buried inside 2 black plastic trash bags. It was Asha's backpack. Inside were her belongings, including a New Kids on the Block t-shirt, a library book she had checked out from school, and other personal items that had been reported missing from her room. But there was no DNA from any suspect. No fingerprints. No clue how it ended up buried there, in the opposite direction from where she was last seen walking. And that was chilling. It suggested someone had taken Asha, kept her belongings, and deliberately disposed of them later, far from the original search area. But why? And why bury only the backpack? The Degree family was devastated. For Aquila and Harold, it confirmed what they feared most. Someone had interfered with their daughter's life. Their worst nightmare was no longer a theory, it was evidence. Still, there was no suspect, no sightings, no answers, and investigators still didn't know why Asha left the house that night. Nothing in her school life, her journals, or her family life pointed to a reason. Her home was loving. Her parents were strict, but supportive. Asha was quiet, obedient, and smart. She had no history of running away or acting out, which made her disappearance feel even more surreal, like a ghost story written into real life. Do you believe Asha was lured out by someone she trusted? Or could she have made the decision on her own for a reason no one has uncovered? As the timeline of Asha Degree's final known movements came into sharper focus, so did the questions. It was now clear she left her home sometime between 2:30 and 3 a.m. on February 14, 2000. But what wasn't clear, and never has been, is why. Asha was just 9 years old. She was sheltered, raised in a home without internet, without distractions, and where structure reigned. Her parents, Aquila and Harold, didn't allow her and her older brother to watch TV past bedtime. They kept the house quiet and safe. There were no signs of trouble, no trauma, no warning. So what would make a little girl pack a book bag, sneak out into a storm, and walk alone down Highway 18 in the middle of the night? 2 separate witnesses later came forward to say they saw a young girl walking south along the road between 3:30 and 4:15 a.m. One driver even turned around, worried something was wrong. When he circled back, the girl ran off the road and into the woods, as if afraid. That girl, police believe, was Asha. But why did she run? Was she spooked by the headlights? Or was she afraid of being returned to something, or someone? That moment was the last known sighting of Asha Degree. After that, the trail went cold. Investigators returned to that same stretch of highway over and over. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Helicopters scanned the woods. Ditches, drainage pipes, and underbrush were combed through by volunteers and officers alike. But there was no sign of her, not even a scrap of clothing. Over time, theories surfaced. Some believed she was running toward something, possibly to meet someone. Others feared she had been abducted, maybe lured out in secret. One detail became especially haunting. Asha had recently read the book The Whipping Boy, a story about 2 boys who ran away on an adventure. Could her imagination have played a role? Could a child's mind, full of fantasy and trust, have led her straight into danger? But even that didn't explain why someone would bury her backpack, or why she had taken certain items and not others. The Degree family clung to hope, but with each passing year, the weight of silence grew heavier. Do you think someone was waiting for Asha that night? Someone who had groomed her, promised something, and convinced her to leave? Or could this really have been a child's innocent, tragic adventure gone wrong? Nearly a year and a half after Asha Degree vanished, a discovery hundreds of miles away would rattle the case and deepen the mystery. It was August 2001, and construction crews were working off Highway 18 in Burke County, about 26 miles north of Asha's home in Shelby, North Carolina. One of the workers was clearing an area along the roadside when he struck something buried inside a black plastic trash bag. When the crew looked closer, they realized it was a backpack. It was worn, damp, but unmistakably a child's. Inside were items that sent a chill down the spines of investigators. The backpack contained Asha's name and school papers, her hairbrush, her favorite pair of jeans. It was hers, no doubt, but the location, that made no sense. Why would Asha's bag be buried nearly 30 miles away, in a spot she had no connection to? Someone had deliberately hidden it, wrapped in plastic and buried underground. For law enforcement, the discovery changed everything. This was no longer a case of a child who ran away and got lost. Someone else was involved. Someone took that bag, traveled out of county, and tried to erase a piece of evidence. The backpack was sent to an FBI lab for analysis. Hopes were high that fingerprints, hair, or trace evidence might be recovered. But whatever was there, if anything, was never publicly released. To this day, law enforcement has kept the findings sealed. The Degree family, still clinging to hope, faced a new kind of heartbreak. Aquila Degree later said, "It was like she had just vanished into thin air. And then, someone tried to bury her memory. But who had buried the bag? And why wait so long? Was this someone close to the family? A stranger? A predator who had gained Asha's trust? And most of all, where was Asha now? Investigators quietly began working new leads. They re-interviewed old witnesses. FBI profilers were consulted. Road maps were examined. But no suspects were named. No arrests were made. And for the Degree family, another painful anniversary passed. Could the backpack have been planted to mislead investigators? Or did someone panic and try to hide evidence after something went wrong? Why would someone go through the trouble of burying it? If this case has gripped your heart the way it has ours, please like this video, share, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Asha's story is far from over, and the truth is still out there. As months passed, the silence around Asha Degree's case became deafening. But then, in 2004, the FBI released a detail that sparked fresh hope and unease. A witness had come forward. Back in 2000, on the morning of Asha's disappearance, February 14th, a man reported seeing a girl matching Asha's description walking along Highway 18. He'd seen her around 4 a.m., just before dawn, about a mile south of where her backpack was eventually found. She was wearing long-sleeved white clothing, consistent with what Asha was last seen wearing. But what chilled investigators was that she appeared scared. The witness described her as walking with purpose but glancing over her shoulder as if someone might be following her. And then came the twist. Another driver, traveling the same road shortly after, also reported seeing the girl, this time just before she darted off the road and into the woods. That was the last known sighting. It raised urgent questions. Was someone following Asha? Did she sense danger? Was she being lured or fleeing? But it would take years before another chilling lead surfaced. In 2016, the FBI released a second alert to the public. They were looking for information about a 1970s model Lincoln Mark IV and a dark green early 2000s Ford Thunderbird. Both vehicles were reportedly seen near the area Asha went missing. Investigators believed the occupants may have had contact with Asha, though no further details were given. To this day, no one connected to either car has ever come forward. The question lingers: if someone picked Asha up, whether willingly or not, where did they take her? And why bury her bag in a completely different county? Despite extensive media coverage, billboards, and interviews on national platforms, no confirmed trace of Asha has ever been found since that cold Valentine's morning. But someone knows what happened. Someone saw more than they've said. And the Degree family refuses to give up. Do you believe the cars seen that morning were involved? Or just a coincidence? Could Asha have gotten into one of them willingly? Why would she run into the woods? By 2017, Asha Degree had been missing for 17 years. Her face had aged in digital renderings, plastered across billboards in North Carolina and beyond. Yet no real progress had been made. For the Degree family, the silence was unbearable. Then, out of nowhere, a tip came in. A man contacted the Shelby Police Department claiming he had information about Asha's disappearance. He said he knew where her body was buried. Investigators took it seriously, far more than the dozens of false leads that had trickled in over the years. This one had specifics. Authorities descended on a rural area in Cleveland County with dogs and forensic experts. They dug for hours, searching for any sign of Asha. The community held its breath. Was this the break the case needed? But the search turned up nothing. No bones, no clothing, no trace. The tip was eventually ruled unfounded. Investigators never publicly named the man, but it's believed he had a history of offering misleading information. To the public, it was another false hope. To Asha's family, it was agony. You pray for a lead, Aquila Degree once said. Then you get one and it leads nowhere. It's like burying her all over again. Even with the disappointment, police insisted the case was still active. They continued reviewing old evidence, rechecking interviews, and consulting with the FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment CARD team. Still, years went by. No arrests, no confirmed sightings, no clear answers. But one detail from the original 2000 investigation kept haunting everyone involved. The fact that Asha packed her own bag. It wasn't a random disappearance. It was a planned departure, at least from her perspective. Why would a child just 9 years old choose to walk out into the cold, in the middle of the night, carrying school supplies and personal belongings? Was someone manipulating her? As painful as it was to consider, many began to believe Asha had been groomed, slowly and carefully, by someone she trusted. Someone who knew exactly how to get her to leave without raising suspicion. But there was still no face, no name, no justice. Do you think someone could have lured Asha over time, maybe even from within her school or community? What kind of person could convince a child to vanish so quietly? Days after Asha Degree vanished, the Shelby community remained in a state of collective disbelief. Posters with her smiling face were plastered across telephone poles, gas stations, and church doors. Search crews had combed through woods and creeks, hoping to find any clue. But it wasn't until nearly a week later that the investigation caught its next lead. 2 separate drivers came forward, both claiming they had seen a young girl walking along Highway 18 in the early hours of February 14th, the same morning Asha disappeared. One driver, a trucker, recalled turning around because something about the child felt off. He said he circled back to check, but by then, the girl had vanished into the darkness. This confirmation that someone really had seen Asha walking alone was a turning point. It verified her departure wasn't just imagined or misunderstood. A 9-year-old had truly left home in the dead of night, in the middle of a storm, and was last seen alive on that stretch of road. Investigators returned to the area with renewed urgency. They searched ditches, nearby woods, and abandoned structures. That's when they discovered a tool shed at a nearby business. Inside, they found candy wrappers, a pencil, and a marker. These weren't just random items. They matched supplies Asha had recently used at school. It was likely she had taken shelter there. But that discovery only deepened the mystery. If Asha had stopped there, what happened afterward? Where did she go next? And more hauntingly, was someone waiting for her? As the days turned into weeks, the leads became fewer. But one thing was clear. Asha's disappearance was no accident. Someone, or something, interrupted her path. What do you think pushed Asha to continue walking instead of turning back home that night? The discovery of Asha Degree's backpack, buried 26 miles away, brought her story back into the public eye. And as news of the strange items inside spread, people who had stayed silent began to reconsider. Tips started to trickle in. One call came from a woman who claimed she saw a young girl matching Asha's description the morning of her disappearance. Not on Highway 18, but near Morganton, in the direction where the backpack was later found. Others claimed they recognized the new kids on the block shirt. A local family said they had donated one just like it to a Goodwill box months before. Investigators checked, but no clear link could be made between the family and Asha's case. And that Dr. Seuss book? Police tracked down the last known borrower, a student at Asha's school. The child had no connection to the Degree family and claimed to have returned the book. So how did it end up with Asha? Every answer led to more questions. In 2004, the FBI officially joined the investigation, bringing new resources and a fresh set of eyes. They released an age progression image of Asha, showing what she might look like at age 14. More would follow as the years passed, 16, 20, 25. But the sightings became fewer, the tips quieter. Still, her parents refused to give up. Harold and Aquila Degree began organizing annual Walk for Asha events, walking the same stretch of road she disappeared from every Valentine's Day. It wasn't just to keep her memory alive. It was to push someone somewhere to finally speak up. Media coverage of the case remained minimal. Asha's story never exploded into a national headline the way other missing children cases did. Some questioned whether race played a role. A missing black girl from a working-class family in North Carolina didn't seem to carry the same urgency in the media cycle. But online, true crime forums started picking it up. Theories ranged from child trafficking to online grooming to the horrifying possibility that Asha was targeted by someone she saw every day. Someone who knew her routine, her fears, her hopes. The backpack felt like a message, but no one could read it. Do you think the backpack was planted as a distraction? Or was it a mistake by someone who thought no one would ever find it? If stories like Asha's matter to you, stories of children who vanish without a trace, whose families are left in torment, then help keep their voices loud. Like this video, share it with someone, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell so more cases like hers don't go forgotten. In 2015, the FBI, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation formed a dedicated task force to re-examine every detail of Asha Degree's case. It had been 15 years since the 9-year-old girl disappeared, and her story had faded from headlines, but not from memory. Agents reviewed every file, every sighting, every piece of evidence, from the Dr. Seuss book to the tattered New Kids on the Block t-shirt. It was clear. Someone knew more than they had said. Then, in September 2016, the FBI made a rare public move. They released a statement to the media, revealing that they were now seeking information about a vehicle. A dark green early 1970s Lincoln Continental Mark IV, or possibly a Ford Thunderbird from the same era. The car had been seen along Highway 18 in Shelby, North Carolina, around the time Asha went missing. For the first time in years, there was hope. A vehicle meant a potential suspect, a lead that hadn't yet gone cold. The FBI clarified that the car was not necessarily a suspect vehicle, but that they were hoping someone remembered seeing it or owned one like it. That hope, however, faded fast. No one came forward with definitive information. No plate numbers. No descriptions of who was behind the wheel. No connection to Asha, at least none the public could see. Still, it marked a shift in the case. One that told the public that investigators believed someone in the area saw something, and that this vehicle could be a key part of the puzzle. But what was it doing out that early on Valentine's Day in 2000? And was it just coincidence that it was seen near the area where Asha was last spotted? With the vehicle alert, the FBI also re-released the age progression images. Asha would have been 25 years old by then. The photo showed a young woman with high cheekbones, warm eyes, and the unmistakable look of someone who'd once been full of promise. Was she still alive? Had she been taken far from home? Or had her fate been sealed that rainy morning? The same morning her mother found her bed empty and her heart forever broken? No answers came, just more silence. But silence, as the Degrees had learned, can be deceiving. Somewhere, someone was carrying a truth too heavy to hold forever. Do you think the driver of that car saw something that day? Or was it someone trying to disappear before anyone noticed? The green 1970s Lincoln or Thunderbird stayed in the back of everyone's mind. It was something tangible, a shadow from that rainy morning in 2000 that hadn't yet been explained. But as quickly as the FBI's statement stirred hope, the case quieted again. In Shelby, people still whispered Asha's name. Her photo remained pinned on cork boards, taped to storefront windows, and tucked inside church bulletins. Every few years, the media circled back. Reporters would revisit the stretch of Highway 18. Some would knock on doors. Others interviewed law enforcement who had worked the case for more than a decade. And every time, Aquila and Harold Degree sat down with unwavering determination, their faces familiar in press conferences, their voices measured but firm. "We won't stop," Aquila would say. "She's our daughter. Somebody knows something." In 2018, the case returned to the national spotlight once again. The FBI released another age progression image, this time showing what Asha might look like at 28 years old. They hoped someone, maybe an old neighbor, a teacher, or even Asha herself, would recognize the face. But it wasn't just photos and statements anymore. Authorities also increased the reward, raising it to $45,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for Asha's disappearance. It was a clear sign that investigators believed foul play had occurred. Still, no one came forward. The Degrees never stopped marking the time. Valentine's Day wasn't just a holiday. It was the anniversary of their worst nightmare. Every year, they held a walk in Asha's memory, called the Walk for Asha Degree. It covered the exact route she had likely taken before vanishing. Dozens of supporters joined. Some held signs. Others wore shirts bearing her face. All of them walked not just in remembrance, but in protest against forgetting. Because forgetting Asha Degree would mean accepting the mystery. And no one, not her family, not her community, not the agents who kept digging, was ready for that. Why do you think someone would carry a secret like this for over 2 decades? Fear? Guilt? Or something else? By 2019, Asha Degree had been missing for nearly 2 decades. But for the Degrees, time hadn't dulled the pain. It had sharpened it. Every year brought another unanswered question. Another birthday without candles. Another February 14th without peace. The Shelby Police Department, the FBI, and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation still considered the case open. They had never closed the file. Yet in public updates, they admitted progress was slow. Theories existed that Asha may have been lured out of her home, that she trusted someone who meant her harm, but there was no physical evidence to anchor any single conclusion. Asha's parents were convinced she didn't just run away. She was a rule follower, shy and sheltered. She was afraid of dogs, scared of thunderstorms, and never went anywhere alone. The idea that she'd walk into the night, on a school night in pouring rain, seemed out of character to everyone who knew her. I just don't believe she left on her own without some kind of influence, Harold Degree told reporters. The FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment CARD team had been brought in at one point, reviewing every lead again from the beginning. But no new evidence emerged. No confirmed sightings. No forensics. The Degrees' home remained a shrine to hope. Asha's room, though redecorated over the years, still held pieces of her childhood. Dolls, trophies, school photos. Aquila never gave up praying. Harold often walked the route again, retracing her last known steps, still searching the ditches and tree lines for something everyone else might have missed. In a rare 2019 interview, Aquila admitted, "It's like we're stuck in time. I still think about what she would be doing now. Would she be married? In school? I just want to know something." The community hadn't forgotten either. Every February, as the Walk for Asha continued, new faces joined old ones. Teachers, classmates, strangers who had heard her story online or through media coverage. It wasn't just a walk. It was a reminder that Asha Degree mattered. But inside the walls of the investigation, hope and frustration were beginning to blur. Detectives feared critical witnesses might have aged, moved, or passed on. The few people who might know the truth, if any, had stayed silent for almost 20 years. Then came 2020, a year no one saw coming, and with it, a stunning development. Why do you think someone would hold on to a secret like this for 20 years? What could finally make them come forward? In February 2020, just as the world was turning its attention to a looming global pandemic, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office received something unexpected. An anonymous tip in the form of a handwritten letter. The envelope arrived quietly, postmarked from North Carolina, but with no return address. Inside, the message was brief, typed, and chilling. The letter claimed that Asha Degree had been killed, and even went as far as naming a location, along Highway 18 near Shelby. It didn't include a name or confess to any involvement, but it was specific enough to get law enforcement's full attention. Investigators took the tip seriously. They wouldn't confirm every detail to the press, but they did say publicly that the area mentioned in the letter had never been searched before. Forensic teams were dispatched to scour the site, looking for disturbed soil, pieces of clothing, even skeletal remains. But just like so many times before, nothing conclusive was found. No bones, no artifacts, no sign of Asha. Still, the letter revived interest in the case. Media outlets began covering the story again. Asha's photo circulated on TV and social media. Podcast episodes dedicated to her case gained fresh listeners, and for a moment it felt like momentum was returning. The FBI re-upped their $25,000 reward, adding it to the $20,000 already being offered by the North Carolina governor's office, totaling $45,000 for information leading to an arrest or discovery. But despite the reward, and despite the renewed coverage, no one else came forward. Whoever sent that letter disappeared into silence, leaving only questions behind. Was it a cruel hoax? A guilty conscience? or a missed opportunity to bring a family answers. To this day, the person behind the 2020 letter has never been identified. Asha Degree vanished in 2000, but her story still haunts North Carolina. Do you believe the letter was real, or just another distraction in a case already full of dead ends? If stories like this matter to you, don't just scroll by. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to know, subscribe for more true crime stories that deserve to be heard. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. After the anonymous letter in 2020, hope flickered again, only to fade into a familiar silence. Investigators combed through the area mentioned in the letter, but the search yielded nothing definitive. No signs of Asha, no evidence, and no way to trace the letter's origin. It was a haunting echo of all the leads that had come before, starting strong, ending nowhere. Still, the FBI, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation kept the case open. They reviewed old files, re-examined interviews, and even brought in outside experts. But the trail once again was cold. For the Degree family, every day without answers was a wound that refused to heal. Harold and Aquila Degree remained vocal and vigilant, refusing to let Asha's story be forgotten. In interviews, Aquila would often say, "She didn't just vanish into thin air. Somebody knows something." The community still remembered. Billboards with Asha's face remained in place. Her age progression photos were updated. Podcasts, online forums, and small-town vigils kept her name in circulation, though the mainstream media mostly moved on. In 2021, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office quietly confirmed they were still receiving tips. Some were vague, others strange, none strong enough to move the investigation forward. They admitted the case was difficult. There was no confirmed sighting of Asha after she left her home in 2000. Everything past that was speculation, and yet they never gave up. The case continued to sit on the desk of at least one full-time investigator. Every year on February 14th, they would post a reminder, "Asha Degree is still missing. We still need your help." For her parents, it wasn't just about justice. It was about memory. It was about the child they raised, the little girl with the quiet smile, the love for books, and the dream of becoming a writer. The child who packed a backpack, walked into the night, and never came home. And it was also about something else, the fear that whoever had taken Asha might still be out there, free, silent, watching. What do you think keeps cases like Asha's unsolved for decades? Is it lack of evidence or something deeper that no one wants to admit? By 2022, it had been 22 years since Asha Degree disappeared into the cold Valentine's Day morning. And yet, every February her family gathered, just as they had for 2 decades, to hold a vigil. They lit candles. They wore green ribbons. They stood in quiet defiance of time. At the front always were Harold and Aquila Degree, no longer the youthful parents from the early press conferences, but still just as determined. They had grown older, their hair streaked with years of waiting, but their eyes still searched every crowd, every corner, as if Asha might appear. The FBI continued to list her as missing on their official site. They maintained a $45,000 reward for information leading to an arrest or resolution. Age-progressed photos were updated to reflect how Asha might look today, a young woman in her early 30s, with her mother's cheekbones and her father's eyes. Yet, even with federal involvement, renewed calls for tips, and community prayers, the case remained at a standstill. In 2022, an FBI spokesperson reiterated, "We believe there are people out there who know what happened to Asha Degree. All it takes is one person to come forward." And that's what made the silence even harder to bear. Someone had watched Asha walk into the darkness in 2000. Someone had passed her on the highway. Someone somewhere knew the truth. But after all these years, they still hadn't come forward. Not with answers that could bring her home. For the Degree family, the unanswered questions had become part of daily life. Where did she go after Route 18? Was she picked up by a stranger? Or someone she knew? Why would a 9-year-old walk away with no obvious signs of abuse, no warning signs at home? Every theory came with its own pain. At one vigil, Aquila spoke with quiet strength. "We believe she's still out there. We have to believe." If we don't, we'll fall apart. Do you think cases like Asha's stay unsolved because people are afraid, or because someone powerful is keeping secrets? In February 2023, as the 23rd anniversary of Asha Degree's disappearance approached, the Degree family did what they had done every year since 2000. They gathered, lit candles, and begged the public not to forget. By now, the yearly vigils had grown quieter. Fewer news vans showed up. Fewer headlines appeared. But the pain? That never lessened. For Harold and Aquila, every passing day without answers felt like reopening the wound all over again. "We've lived every parent's worst nightmare," Aquila told a local reporter. "But we refuse to give up. We're not going to stop until we find out what happened to our daughter." In 2023, the FBI's Charlotte Field Office, along with the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, reaffirmed that Asha's case remained active and ongoing. The reward, $45,000, was still on the table, and so was the hope that someone might finally speak. The investigation, though cold in the public's eyes, had never been officially closed. Agents and detectives continued to follow leads, reanalyze evidence, and conduct interviews. The digital age had opened new doors: age progression software, geolocation tracking, and the growing reach of social media helped amplify Asha's story to younger generations. But even with awareness, the truth remained buried. There was no DNA, no confirmed sightings, no verified suspects, no body, nothing conclusive, just a backpack found 26 miles away and a 9-year-old girl who walked into the dark and vanished. What haunted investigators the most was how deliberate it all seemed. Asha wasn't sleepwalking. She had packed her book bag. She left with purpose. But why? Was she lured? Was she running from something no one had noticed? Or was she promised something she believed in, only to fall into the hands of someone dangerous? There was one certainty: children don't just vanish. Someone, somewhere, knew. Why do you think more people aren't talking about Asha Degree's case today? Is it because she was a black girl? Or because silence protects someone who still walks free? 2 decades passed and still no Asha. In 2024, the silence surrounding her case became its own kind of injustice. Despite the yearly vigils, the family interviews, and the reward money, her story remained under the radar of national media. Cases like hers rarely made it past a local headline. Harold and Aquila Degree knew why. If Asha had looked different, Aquila once said softly in an interview, maybe there'd be more noise. Maybe she wouldn't have been forgotten so easily. It was a brutal truth. Across the country, missing black children often received less coverage, fewer investigative resources, and less public attention. Asha Degree, a straight-A student, star athlete, no history of abuse or neglect, should have been a national priority. But outside of North Carolina, few even recognized her name. The FBI continued to stand by the $45,000 reward and kept her profile on the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Her age progression photo showed a beautiful young woman with the same eyes, the same steady gaze. If Asha were alive today, she'd be 33. The Degree family had never moved from their home in Shelby. They kept her room exactly the same. Her trophies, her books, her favorite childhood toys, a museum of hope and heartbreak. In 2024, a small true crime podcast reignited interest in the case, bringing in a wave of online discussions and TikTok sleuths. The podcast didn't uncover new leads, but it did remind the internet: Asha Degree is still missing. She still matters. That renewed interest caught the attention of larger news outlets, and for the first time in years, major media platforms revisited the case. With the rise of social media advocacy, Asha's face began appearing in feeds, reels, and hashtags once again. But visibility doesn't equal justice. Who was with Asha that night? Who stopped on that rainy highway and took her into the dark? And why have they never been caught? Someone still knows, and someone, even today, could bring this family the truth. Do you believe the lack of national attention has hurt this case? Why do some children vanish into silence while others make headlines? If this story moved you, please don't let Asha Degree be forgotten. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help keep her name in the spotlight. We cover real stories that still need answers. Your voice makes a difference. In 2025, something changed. For years, Asha Degree's disappearance had existed in a loop: yearly vigils, quiet heartbreak, and the haunting void of unanswered questions. But now, a new generation had found her story. It began with a tweet. A true crime creator posted Asha's age progression photo with the caption, "She was 9. She packed her backpack. She walked into the storm. And no one ever saw her again." The tweet went viral overnight. Within days, TikTok creators, Instagram Reels, and even YouTube documentaries were talking about Asha Degree. And then, so were the authorities. The renewed attention sparked a public call for transparency. Advocates asked why no updated FBI profile had been released since 2021. Why hadn't the composite sketch from 2001, the man seen near a green car the morning Asha disappeared, been digitally aged? Why had leads seemingly dried up? In Shelby, the Degree family watched the digital storm unfold. They had been carrying the weight of this silence for 25 years. Now, people were finally asking the questions they'd been shouting into the void. The Cleveland County Sheriff's Office released a brief statement. All leads are still being reviewed. Any new information brought forward will be fully investigated. But it wasn't enough. Podcast hosts filed FOIA requests. Twitter threads dissected the original timeline. Reddit exploded with theories, some respectful, others wildly speculative. A former local reporter even came forward, revealing that she had tried to pursue the story in 2015, but was told by her editor it wasn't a priority anymore. The Degree family, weary but hopeful, issued a message through their pastor. "We don't want sympathy. We want answers. If all of this attention can bring one person to say something new, then it's worth it. Asha is still out there. We believe that." Then, in April 2025, a message appeared in the inbox of the Missing and Exploited Children tip line. It was anonymous. Simply read, "You're looking in the wrong place." There was no name, no timestamp, no IP address that could be traced. Just that sentence. Do you think that anonymous message was a real tip or a cruel distraction? Why do you think it appeared now after all these years? When the anonymous tip came in, "You're looking in the wrong place," law enforcement didn't say much, but behind closed doors, it stirred something. For years, tips had come and gone. Some were well-meaning dead ends. Others were cruel hoaxes. But this one felt different. It was precise. No details, no backstory, just a direct challenge. And that silence, that chilling brevity, shook the case open again. FBI agents and detectives met in a closed-door session in Charlotte, analyzing every word. Was the message suggesting Asha had been taken farther than initially believed? That the 2 car sightings that morning weren't just random? Or that the entire assumption that she left on her own had been wrong from the start? The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit re-entered the picture, revisiting psychological profiles. One profiler reportedly said, "Sometimes, the answers don't lie in what she did, but in who was watching her." Investigators returned to the few confirmed sightings of Asha. A truck driver, a motorist who saw a girl walking along Highway 18, clutching a book bag, in the early morning hours of February 14, 2000. Both described a girl matching Asha's description, walking alone in the rain, near the edge of the woods. But no one ever saw where she went next. Now, with the cryptic message hanging over the investigation, police began quietly reviewing locations never previously searched. Properties that had changed ownership. Remote areas just outside the original grid. Landfill records. Cabin rentals. Storage units abandoned in 2000. In the background, the Degree family watched with cautious hope. They had seen the cycle before. Media flurries, renewed interest, and the painful drop-off when answers didn't come quickly. But this time, the energy was different, sharper, focused. In a rare public interview, Asha's father Harold said quietly, "I've always believed somebody took her, but now I think somebody's finally scared we're getting close." As May 2025 rolled in, the FBI issued a fresh request for public help. They re-released Asha's age progression photo, updated to reflect what she might look like at 34 years old. And with it, a new hotline. The number rang directly to a federal task force. The line is open 24 hours a day, because after 25 years, someone finally blinked. Do you think someone out there is finally ready to confess? Or is this just another breadcrumb in a trail gone cold? When the FBI released the updated age progression image of Asha Degree, it spread like wildfire. TV stations, online forums, social media feeds. People stopped scrolling, stared, shared. For a moment, it felt like the entire internet was looking for a girl who disappeared more than 2 decades ago. She would be 34 now, and something about the eyes in that image haunted people. They weren't just guesses, they were crafted using family photos, bone structure studies, and professional forensic artistry. The resemblance was startling. It was Asha grown up, or who she might be. Tips surged. Most were hopeful noise. A woman in Texas who resembled the sketch. A customer in a Georgia diner. A girl seen boarding a bus in New York. All investigated. All ruled out. But then, one tip wasn't. It didn't lead to Asha. But it did lead to someone who once lived within 15 miles of Shelby, North Carolina. Someone who owned a dark green early 90s Ford Thunderbird. The very make and model that one witness claimed to have seen stopped on Highway 18 that rainy Valentine's morning in 2000. That car had never been traced before. The owner, a man in his late 40s, had moved out of the state shortly after Asha disappeared. He'd never been a suspect, never interviewed. He told investigators he couldn't remember much about that time, said he sold the car years ago. But he did remember one thing. He used to take that same road, Highway 18, every morning for work. And he admitted to keeping old clothes and plastic bags in his trunk, the same type of items found in the shed near where Asha's book bag was eventually discovered. No arrest was made, no charges filed. But his name is now on the radar, flagged, watched, and quietly investigated. For Asha's family, this new lead is a tightrope walk between hope and heartbreak. They've learned not to get too attached to moments like this. Still, O'Brien Degree, her brother, posted on social media for the first time in months. If someone's listening, if you've stayed silent this long, don't think we're going away. We never stopped. We never will. As the 25th anniversary approaches, the community of Shelby is planning another candlelight vigil. Faith leaders, former teachers, and childhood friends will gather again to honor the girl with the shy smile and quiet strength who walked out into the darkness. But this time, there's a growing belief that someone might finally talk. Do you believe this new lead will finally open the door to justice, or is it just another shadow in the long, quiet night? 20 years. That's how long Harold and Aquila Degree have lived in limbo, caught between memory and hope. February 14th no longer means teddy bears and chocolates. It means police press conferences, candlelight vigils, and another year without their daughter. In 2020, the FBI released an age progression photo showing what Asha might look like at 29 years old. The image, filled with longing and speculation, reignited the pain but also the possibility. She could be out there, Harold said during a media interview. We just want to bring her home. The case was still active. The FBI, the SBI, and the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office had formed a special task force. The $45,000 reward remained on the table, but leads had slowed. The tip about the 1998 Lincoln Continental never panned out. No new suspects were named, and the backpack, discovered 26 miles away in Burke County, still yielded no DNA matches. But what never slowed was the Degree family's determination. In 2021, they launched a renewed community campaign, urging people to reshare Asha's story online using the hashtag #BringAshaHome. Her face appeared on digital billboards and in online forums. True crime podcasts began to cover the case again. Awareness grew, but answers didn't. Investigators said they were still following up on leads, but the silence weighed heavy. Even in a digital world where information moves fast, the truth about what happened to Asha Degree remained just out of reach. Still, the Degrees refused to give up. Every year, they held a walk in her memory. It began at the exact spot where Asha was last seen, walking alone in the rain, and ended at her elementary school. Dozens of people joined them, holding signs, wearing t-shirts with her photo, and chanting her name. As Harold once said, "We know someone knows. We're just waiting for the day they come forward." What will it take for that day to come? What do you believe is holding back the truth after all these years? Could someone close to the case be protecting a secret? Let's talk about it in the comments. If you believe every missing child deserves to be found, help keep Asha's story alive. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel so more people hear her name. Click the notification bell so you don't miss the next part of this heartbreaking mystery. In 2016, a new lead broke through the long silence. A tipster came forward with information that had never been shared publicly. He claimed to have seen Asha the morning she disappeared, walking along Highway 18 near Shelby. But what he remembered most wasn't just the sight of a little girl alone in the rain. It was the car. A 1970s, early 1980s Lincoln Continental Mark IV, dark green, with rust around the wheel wells. According to the witness, the vehicle had pulled over near Asha. She slowed down. The man believed she interacted with the driver, before the car turned around in a nearby driveway and circled back. That image haunted investigators. Why would a 9-year-old be alone that early in the morning? And more chilling, why would she stop for a car? Authorities released a sketch of the vehicle and renewed their public appeal. But after years had passed, memories faded. No one could say for sure who had been driving the Lincoln. No license plate, no witness recall of the driver's face. The degrees held their breath. This was the first potential sign that Asha may have been lured or coerced into a vehicle. It shifted the focus from a child who vanished by choice to one who may have been abducted. The FBI examined the tip closely. They re-interviewed neighbors, searched DMV records, and even canvassed junkyards looking for similar vehicles. But nothing concrete came of it. And still, that one detail, the man in the green car, remained a ghost in the investigation. Was he a stranger? Someone Asha knew? Or worse, someone who had been watching her? The sketch of the car is still out there, posted on FBI.gov and shown at every annual vigil. A silent reminder that someone, somewhere, may recognize it. And that after all these years, a rusted green Lincoln might still hold the key to unlocking Asha's fate. What do you think happened that morning on Highway 18? Do you believe the driver of that car holds the answers the world has been waiting for? Let us know your thoughts below. Your comment might reach someone who knows something. By 2020, Asha Degree's disappearance had become one of North Carolina's most haunting mysteries. 2 decades had passed, and yet her story lingered, etched into the heart of every officer who had ever handled her file. Among them was Detective Tim Adams, who had quietly stayed involved even after retirement. "We never let her go," he once said. "She's never been just a case file." In the years since the discovery of Asha's backpack in 2018, investigators had returned to one chilling question. Why was the bag buried 30 miles away? That distance wasn't random. FBI analysts created geoprofiles, studying abduction patterns, traffic routes, and local offenders within that radius. The site where the backpack was buried, along Highway 18, was isolated but not inaccessible. A vehicle could have pulled over unnoticed in the early morning darkness. And that realization led to something new. Retired agents began poring through old towing records, abandoned vehicle reports, and traffic citations from Valentine's Week in 2000. One entry stood out. A call about a suspicious green vehicle parked at a church lot, only 10 miles from the backpack site. The car was gone when deputies arrived, and no follow-up was ever done. The car's make? A green 1970s Lincoln or Thunderbird. That same vehicle had been mentioned by a truck driver back in 2000, the one who saw a small figure walking alone along Highway 18 around 4 a.m. He had noticed the green car parked oddly ahead, but thought little of it at the time. Now, decades later, both sightings carried more weight. Meanwhile, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office worked with VICAP, FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, to compare Asha's case with other missing children nationwide. A few similarities emerged, but none with solid links. And then, in 2021, a lead emerged that no one expected. A letter, and signed, was mailed to the FBI tip line in Charlotte. It referenced what happened at the shed and claimed, "She was taken because of what she saw." That single line rattled investigators. It aligned with what many had suspected, that Asha may have witnessed or encountered someone she shouldn't have. Was this real, or just a cruel prank? The letter had no return address. The handwriting was blocky, printed. Forensics found no fingerprints, no saliva. But the wording, the eerie familiarity, was chilling. It used a nickname for Asha that had only ever been mentioned in one local newspaper interview years prior. Agents re-examined the 911 call logs from that week. They pulled school counselor notes, looking for any encounter Asha might have had that hinted at trouble. Nothing jumped out. But the theory that Asha had been lured, not just wandered away, was gaining weight again. And with that, the case pivoted once more toward the psychology of an abductor. Someone who had watched, waited, and struck under cover of night. Do you believe the letter was real, written by someone who knows the truth? Or was it just another cruel twist in a story already overflowing with unanswered questions? More than 2 decades after Asha Degree stepped out into the storm, the timeline of her disappearance has narrowed, but the truth remains hidden between its silent gaps. After the discovery of her backpack near Highway 18 in 2018, investigators doubled down. They canvassed the area again. Soil samples were taken. Search dogs were brought in. But there were no other signs of Asha, no footprints, no clothing remnants, no witness sightings. And the most troubling part? That area had been searched before. How had they missed the bag? Or had it been placed there later? This question haunted detectives. It shifted the focus from Asha's initial route to the long stretch of years after. Somewhere along the line, someone either held on to that backpack or chose the perfect time to bury it. The Degree family struggled with the emotional whiplash. Hope surged, only to collapse into deeper confusion. Harold Degree, Asha's father, said in an interview, "When they found her backpack, I thought, this is it. I thought the door was about to open, but it didn't." The FBI continued to release appeals, reminding the public that even the smallest memory, sighting, or conversation could be the key. A $45,000 reward remained in place. Billboards went up. Asha's face appeared on the FBI's website and across digital platforms. Still no suspect, no confession, no sign of Asha. And then another whisper in the case. A confidential tip came in. A person claimed to overhear a conversation in which someone allegedly admitted involvement in disposing of a girl's body years ago. The description and timeline aligned with Asha's case. Authorities followed the lead, but as with so many others before, it hit a dead end. The person who made the comment denied everything. There was no physical evidence, and the source couldn't provide more details. It was another reminder of the case's tragic weight. For every small break, there seemed to be a wall waiting just ahead. But through it all, the Degree family never stopped pushing. They attended press briefings. They walked the neighborhoods again. They clung to each candlelit vigil, refusing to let Asha's memory slip away. Because in the heart of Shelby, North Carolina, a little girl had vanished, and someone somewhere still knew why. What do you think? Could the backpack have been a planted distraction? Or a forgotten clue from the past finally forcing its way to the surface? 2 decades have passed since Asha Degree disappeared into the dark, stormy night of February 14, 2000. Her case has remained one of the most haunting and perplexing child disappearances in North Carolina's history. Despite massive efforts by local law enforcement, the FBI, and the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, no one has been arrested. No one has been charged, and Asha has never been found. Over the years, the Degree family has kept her name alive with prayer walks, community events, and quiet perseverance. Each year on Valentine's Day, they gather with friends and neighbors at the spot where she was last seen, holding signs, lighting candles, and refusing to let the world forget her. The FBI still lists Asha as a missing person. They continue to offer a reward of up to $45,000 for any information leading to her location or the identity of those involved. Her age-progressed images, showing what she might look like today, are circulated every year, a painful reminder of how much time has passed. Yet through all of it, Asha's parents, Harold and Aquila Degree, have never lost hope. "Until you can show me proof that she's not alive," her father once said, "I'm not going to believe it." They believe their daughter is out there somewhere. And every passing year brings a renewed commitment to uncovering the truth. The mystery remains. What made a 9-year-old girl leave home that night? Was she meeting someone? Was she running toward something? Or away from something? Was she lured? Or was it her own choice, based on something no one ever saw coming? Asha Degree's story is not over. It's a story waiting for the right voice, the right memory, the right witness to finally come forward. So now we ask you, could that voice be yours? If you know anything about the disappearance of Asha Degree, no matter how small or distant it may seem, please contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office at 704-484-4788. This case deserves closure. Asha deserves justice. Do you think someone close to her knew more than they ever told? Or is it possible that Asha was taken far away that same night? Hidden in plain sight all this time? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about Asha. Let's not forget her. If this case moved you, please like, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so more people can hear Asha's story. Together, we keep her name alive.